Welcome to Hip Hop Movie Club, the show that harmonizes the rhythm of hip hop with the magic of movies. Today, we're going to have some fun and discuss the awesome episode of Teen Titans Go called Don't Press Play, which features hip hop royalty De La Soul. We are three old heads who put their old heads together to vibe on these cartoons for you. I'm Dino Wright, podcaster, filmmaker, longtime hip hop fan, and my favorite De La album is Stakes is High.
I'm JB, 80s and 90s nostalgia junkie, longtime hip-hop fan. And I place De La Soul's 3 Feet High and Rising in my top 5 hip-hop albums of all time.
Nice. I'm Boogie, a DJ, longtime hip-hop fan, and De La Soul is easily one of my favorite groups of all time. I mean, I've listened to 3 Feet High and Rising and De La Soul is Dead more times than I can count. Like, front to back, no skips.
No skips. In this episode, we are going cartoonish and breaking down the Teen Titans Go De La Soul episode.
And here are 3 takeaways from the Don't Press Play episode of Teen Titans Go. Number 1, the episode pays tribute to the legendary De La Soul as a fun and influential hip-hop trio. 2, there is a major theme around the group's lengthy battle with Tommy Boy Records for the rights to their own music. And 3, multiple Easter eggs in the episode will delight De La Soul fans. This was such a fun ride, and the episode was only 15 minutes in length, or actually when you condense it down without commercials, like 11 minutes or so.
Yeah,
and
12 minutes.
That's amazing. They pack so much fun and energy and excitement and knowledge into this short episode. And I really think it does a good job of demonstrating how much fun De La Soul and positivity, fun, lightheartedness, influential that De La Soul was. Boogie, what's your take on how it portrayed them in that light?
Yeah, I mean, like the episode, first of all, I think the episode was way too short. I could have watched easily like a full, hour or so, hour and a half of it. It was so good. Like it captured their personalities pretty good too. And like how they played off of one another. It was just, great to see them on screen. Like even if they were animated, I mean, every scene with them in it, it was just crazy. So I did like how they had their little powers in the beginning as it showed them fighting the monster. Talk a little bit about that. And I also like how there was a little bit of humor with them as far as wanting to call the big guns in, aka the Justice League, and how they wanted to call it the Justice League. And it was just funny because Robin was saying, hey, we can handle this. We can handle even Cyber thing. We can handle this. And they're like, no, we want the Justice League. Justice League. It was just funny. Like, and I like the lighthearted humor that the episode carried, even if it was, it was shadowing their real life struggle as far as royalties are concerned. We could talk about that a little bit as well. But yeah, I think it was great.
Yeah, Dino, right. What do you say about the lightheartedness of it and the fun?
Oh,
aspect?
sure. Like any great cartoon, it's fun for kids and adults, and so you get this discussion about intellectual property. Like you never see that in cartoons, and it's done really well. So you're not going to get bored with discussions about the legalities of using intellectual property.
Right.
Yeah. And even if you didn't know who De La Soul was, it even does the introductions, it says their name and it's AKA Plug 1, AKA Plug 2. Mm-hmm. It was just so well done.
Yeah. You can get away with that in a cartoon.
Yeah.
Right. So, it's a lot of fun. The Teen Titans are fanboying and girling over them. And so you get a little bit of license to just, oh, here he is. Here's your exposition. Here's plugs 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
But I definitely like how they introduced all of them, starting with their government name, Plug 1, AKA. That was cool because I've definitely, in all of the names, I've heard them call all of those names. So it was pretty cool to see that, they acknowledged all of those different monikers that were, that each one of them carried.
Yep. And it's cute. The character Star was like, the day, the law, and the soul. It's just cute the way she said that. She was starstruck. And I think she said it best. It was Star that said, their importance to hip-hop and the culture cannot be overstated. That's a true fact there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And even tells you where they're from. They're from Amityville, Long Island. And there was even the joke about Amity Island from Jaws.
Yeah.
and the one guy turns into the shark.
Yeah.
And that was kind of funny. I like the battle with the monster. He's actually, was it Postadus? His headphones shrunk into
Yeah.
kind of like a cannon or something.
Shannon, yeah.
Yeah, and was shooting out. And then Mace, I think, was chucking the vinyl.
Yeah.
It's like 45, 12-inch.
Yeah, I definitely, as a DJ, I definitely appreciated that.
That was pretty cool. Yeah. So it was so much fun. Moving on to the lesson, I'm telling about the history because of, as hip hop heads know, there was a lengthy battle that De La Soul had with Tommy Boy Records for the rights to own music. That's their takeaway number 2. There's a major theme around that. And they do that in a fun and informative way. Yeah, Boogie, you want to talk a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, so during the course of the episode, Robin breaks down a la Schoolhouse Rock, the subject of music royalties and how, once an MC creates a rhyme, it becomes theirs. And then, if anyone else wants to use it or stream it or et cetera, you have to pay the artist, and shows the importance of that subject and that topic, and why there was a big thing going on as far as the space alien that was stealing their music, because he was just taking it without, they weren't getting any money for it. He was just taking it. And I do like how, I believe it was Pa said that it's not necessarily just about the money, but it's about making the music available to the fans.
Right.
I was like, see,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you want to get paid for your music, and I'm sure that they definitely wouldn't want the money to go elsewhere because they deserve it. But yeah, the fans have been wanting it as well. So it's been a battle between De La Soul and Tommy Boy, and also the fans have been pushing back as well. I've seen like full-on posts where people just tagging Tommy Boy all in the posts, saying, get these guys back their music so we can listen to it. Like, we want to listen to it. Like, we grew up on it. Like, I have so many fond memories of 3 Feet High and Rising and De La Soul is Dead. Like, just hours upon hours upon hours of listening to those songs with my boy at the time. So, like, you get to a certain age, you're like, you want to hear that music again, because a lot of the stuff out now, it's good stuff out, but I still think a lot of the stuff out now is crap. So I want to go back and pull some of that, nostalgia back and some of that good stuff, that feel good music with a nice positive vibe to it, So yeah, that lesson was very much appreciated that Robin put out there, and I say anybody, just pay attention to it. It was good. Broke it down real quick, to the point, easy to understand.
Yeah. Anything to add to that, Donna, right?
Yeah, again, explanation of intellectual property, and won't get into it too deeply, but it was very famously sued in the 90s for sampling the Turtles without sampling You Showed Me on Transmitting Live from Mars, which is also referenced in this. We'll get into this in Takeaway 3. But that lawsuit was very instrumental, so to speak, in figuring out what to do about how to handle intellectual property and sampling, and how to compensate the source material and all this. So is kind of full circle at this point now that De La Soul was working to get control of their music at the time.
Yeah, and what you said, Boogie, like having it available for the public was so key. And I lived through that because I have 2 teenage kids and they grew up on streaming, and I've been teaching them about old school hip hop. And my son was able to pull up the entire catalog of Tribe Called Quest and Run DMC and all of my other old school classics, and he loved them. And I was like, for a while, we were just hitting a roadblock with De La Soul, and it's like the only way he'd be able to hear it is if I would find the CD, find a way to play it, or find on YouTube clips. And it was really quite troublesome to be able to play the songs, just like anything else. Where a streaming service like Spotify or Apple Music, whatever, like you could pretty much bring up any song from any artist in the world, almost every single one, unless there's some sort of, copyright issue. And it was just frustrating. One of my favorite artists of all time to not be able to share that. So it was such a big relief. We kind of celebrated on, was it March 3rd, 2023?
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, as we had stated earlier, Dave Joliker, Trugoy, Plug 2, had passed away just prior to that, a couple weeks prior. So he didn't get to see that come to fruition.
Yeah, sad.
Yeah, it was very sad. But and I think you alluded to some of the Easter eggs that are in this, which is our takeaway number 3. Multiple Easter eggs in the episode will delight De La Soul fans. So I'll just remind what you mentioned already. Dinah Wright was transmitting live from Mars. They mentioned that because that's where the music was being transmitted by the monster. That was actually one of their songs that De La Soul had on 3 Feet High and Rising, which spurred the lawsuit from the Turtles. That's kind of like sad in the sense that that song was not like a true single that came out like a Me, Myself, and I, or I Know, or Plug Tune In. It was just like a really interlude where they were just having fun with it, and they were speaking some alien language, but they did use the beat. So yes, the Turtles did deserve to get some credit for that, but to the tune of like $1.7 million, that is what they settled out of court. That was kind of wild. Other Easter eggs throughout. Who wants to talk about a few of those?
I think one of the funniest ones was when they fell for the boogie trap, the don't press play boogie trap. And as they're trapped and the water's coming in and they're like rattling off the album titles. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. Oh, that's pretty cool. And it's funny because I watched this episode with my mom. So she's like, oh, you know all those. I'm like, of course I know all these. This is one of my favorite rap groups. Like I tell everybody, Public Enemy is my favorite rap group of all time. But like De La Soul and the Tribe Called Quest are right there with them. I mean, it's just, they're right there. Like I grew up on all 3 of them. So, I mean, yeah, I'm like, yeah, that's an album title. Yep, that's an album title. That's an album title. It was pretty funny how they were throwing the titles in there.
And they actually did the wink with the sound effect. Ding! Every time they said the album name, right? That was good. The water was 3 feet high and rising. Wink!
Yep.
We better get out or De La Soul's dead. Oh, wow, the stakes is high. And then what got them to escape was, all right, guys, balloon mindset. And they inflate their heads, and then they're able to escape. So, and that was awesome.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, that was the biggest of the Easter eggs, but quite obvious. Another one that I saw was, at one point they're like, who wants some yogurt? And yogurt was the origin of Trugoy's name, which is yogurt spelled backwards. If Plug 2. So I thought that was kind of cool that they just mentioned that. This might be a little bit of reach, but I actually thought when they did the lesson, you mentioned like Schoolhouse Rock, they did the lesson. I thought right back to the Me, Myself, and I video, how they're in the classroom. And they're sitting down at the table, and that was kind of how Robin was doing the lesson on music royalties.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. But there is a turtle in the beginning of the episode, so
there was a turtle.
That was okay. And at the end of the episode, they do play the song "Pain," which is a De La Soul song, so it's not truly an Easter egg. But I wasn't super familiar with that song, and I played it back in its entirety. That's a collab with Snoop Dogg. It's a great song.
Yeah, there was one part that when they were on Mars and the music was released and it powered them up and their suits changed. That when they were all 3 of them were standing there, it kind of reminded me of the album cover from the Art of Intelligence Mosaic Thump album cover. I mean, it wasn't exactly the same, but the way they were standing is like, this kind of reminds me of the cover.
Yeah. More subtle reference to the album names. Album titles.
And the Balloon Mind State, like when they do inflate their heads, is similar to the cover from this that same titled album. And I saw something online about actually the trap was like could be a nod to the real life Jezero crater in Mars that was thought to have once flooded with water. Possibly some scientific aspects of that.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah.
They do pack a lot of stuff into these episodes.
They do pack.
Yeah, they do.
So it's entirely possible.
Yeah. The one thing I didn't know what the reference was Plug 2 shirt said Jackson, Jaxon. Do you guys know what that was referenced? I didn't know if that was someone in his family or anything. I couldn't find anything about that. Everything's intentional, I'm sure, but
yeah.
I was just wondering what that was about. Jaxon. Yeah, it's Jackson. We could maybe find that. If we do discover something, we could put it into the show notes.
Yeah, I'm not familiar. I didn't know that. I saw that. I noticed that. I didn't quite understand that either. Unless it's a reference to Michael Jackson, but I don't. It didn't seem. Yeah, it didn't seem
could
like
be.
It was.
Could be related to one of the producers or editors of the episode.
Listener, if you know the answer, hit us up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but man, that was such a fun episode. Like you said, Boogie, I could watch that for a while. I watched it a few times ahead of this, as we were leading up to this. I had seen it already in the past, and again, that was my idea. I was like, hey guys, let's cover this because this is a lot of fun, and I encourage you listeners to go back and watch this. It is on Max. If you have the Max streaming service, is where you can find it. It is in season 6, and I believe it's episode 30, either 34 or 36. I forget what it said there.
It's somewhere near the end of season 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll find it. It's called Don't
Press Play.
Don't Press Play. Another De La Soul related clip, which I highly recommend, is the episode of the Stephen Colbert show where De La Soul performs I Know. They're talking about sampling, how they're mixing beats in the pot and guitars, and they talk about how they created it. And I think this was definitely after Plug 2 had passed away, so it's positives and Maceo on that. But that was really well done. Maybe we can put that into the show notes as well. It's a lot of fun. But this leads me to believe there's a lot of content in De La Soul's music. You can make a whole episode about any of their songs, really, like Potholes in My Lawn or Say No Go, which has the Hall & Oates sample. Yeah. There's a lot of message. Stakes is High has a strong message.
Stakes is High, yes.
Like so much content, and like there could be a lot to that. And, I mean, that's maybe an idea for other creatives out there to maybe extend the life or to, have these songs live on further and add different value and meaning to others for this next generation. Create more content with these songs.
Hip Hop Movie Club is produced by your HHMCs, JB, Boogie, and Dino Wright. Theme music by Boogie. On November 13th at Steel Stacks in Bethlehem, we are presenting a screening of Boys in the Hood in 4K with a special panel discussion. Tickets available at steelstacks.org. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads at Hip Hop Movie Club. Whether you're listening to the podcast or watching us on YouTube, please give us a follow. It's a real power-up for us. Thanks for tuning in.
And remember, don't hate, animate.
Of course, gotta animate. You gotta do it.
No doubt about it.
Here's the layup. Out of your pass. Woo.
Hey, there's a lot of hip hop in the Animaniacs as well. We can maybe check out some
absolutely.
Of that. And then my kids learned the
cheese jams there.
All the U.S. states through the Animaniacs.
Mm-hmm.
That version, yeah. Animation and hip hop is a marriage made in heaven.
Rich topic.
Absolutely.